What's up guys, Vulkan here, and today we're diving back into Biomutant with the top 25 things you need to know before launch. And we're gonna get things started by talking about the huge world that we get to explore. So the world of Biomutant is massive. The developers created an 8x8 square, which is about 64 kilometers to explore, and that's not even including the massive underground world, the interiors, caves, and really anything not outside. Now this world is split into two parts, which they call the New World, which is like the fantasy-ish area we've seen with all the colors. It's very like whimsical. And then we have the Old World, which is the underground areas, which seem to look closer to the remnants of our civilization. Things like subway systems, breaker boxes, ruined buildings, really just, like I said, remnants of civilization. Now, the game revolves around this giant tree of life that keeps the world alive. Well, unfortunately, this tree is being poisoned by this new seeping oil that's coming up from the ground, and to top it all off, you're gonna have these big baddies that are chewing on the roots, and these need to be stopped or the tree's going to die. And this is where you come in as the main character. You have a choice to either help the tree or let it die, and depending on your decisions along the way, that's going to dictate whether or not that happens. So yes, there are multiple endings to Biomutant for you to experience, so if you get one, you can create a new character and try something different to try to get the other one. And throughout the story, you're going to be accompanied by this little automaton. And this little guy is like your buddy, and he's this little robot gadget thing, and it sort of functions like the Zelda fairy. So he's going to chat with you a bit about the world, help translate NPCs, and give you guidance if you want it. It looks like you can talk to him whenever you need to, so it's not like it has to be prompted or at a certain quest turn in or anything like that. If you just want to talk to him, you can talk to him. Now, in terms of game length, the game can be completed within 10 hours if you just put your head down and only do the critical path story missions. But I mean, in this huge, massive world, why would you want to do that? The game honestly reminds me a lot of Skyrim. You can blast through the main story and be done super quick, but you'll be missing out on 95% of the game and all of the things that are hidden in this world. And the world itself is divided into 7 different biomes, and in these biomes are different zones. And these zones have objectives that you can complete, and these really kind of help encourage exploration. These are things like finding secret areas, hidden items, picking up a certain number of rare pieces of gear, and we don't know all of the areas that are in each and every one, but we do know that there are 7 different biomes to explore, all with different identities, and each biome has a certain hazard that players will need to prepare for. And this kind of works like Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you need to have enough protection to weather the elements to explore each zone. And this includes finding things like a gas mask to explore radioactive areas, or having thicker clothes to avoid freezing to death in the cold areas. Now, don't think you won't be able to go into these zones or biomes at all. You'll be able to go in there and explore a little bit, but these items will help you explore each biome without penalty. So you'll be able to go through there and be protected from everything and be able to fully explore each zone. And when you're creating your character, you will get to choose a certain resistance that you'll get a bonus in. It can either be all in on cold, it can be a combination of like cold and radioactive, so you can do some sort of mixtures and hybrids, but really this just helps give you a little bit of an edge towards a certain biome. Now, tucked away all over the world are puzzles, and these can be solved to find rare gear, resources, new automatons, really tons of different kinds of rewards. So keep an eye out for subtle hints that NPCs will drop about where some of these might be, and that'll come into play with the karma system that we'll talk about here in a moment. So getting around this massive world has a few different methods. You can walk everywhere, you can drop onto all fours to run faster and sprint, or you can get other animals to do it for you. And we've seen gameplay of mounted creatures that you can get to make exploring go a little bit faster. And the nice thing here is that you can also fight from these things, so you don't have to dismount to start combat, and they can swim, which is great. You don't get dismounted when you fall into some water. And if riding other creatures isn't really your thing, then you could just build your own vehicles to get the job done for you. So it really shouldn't be a surprise that these aren't typical vehicles either. I mean, we see a giant mech hand, an actual mech, a jet ski, boats, blimps, all kinds of stuff here that you get to ride, as well as glide on. So throughout the game, you're going to run into members of one of the 6 tribes. And these tribes all have their own motives and are either trying to save the tree, kill the tree, or they honestly just don't care about the tree. And the cool thing here is that you can align yourself with certain tribes if you want to, even going as far as to completely kill off another tribe if they get into your way or are giving you some friction. It's all up to you. But this does affect your karma. And like I mentioned earlier, there is a karma system in the game called auras. And this karma system is like any other one. You make choices and it pushes you towards light or dark, and this is going to affect how NPCs will view you. And this is going to give you new dialogue options or even cause certain characters to not be available. And the developers claim that we can even convince NPCs to convert to our side if we press them enough. I mean, even going as far as taking a dark tribe who's all about violence and converting them to light or vice versa. So I can't wait to see people who like take the most kind, pacifist tribe and convert them into this like super dark, violent group. It reminds me of old Civilization when Gandhi had the nukes and there was that bug where he would just basically go ballistic and blow everything up. Fantastic stuff. Okay, so I want to change gears a little bit and I want to talk about our characters. Now, when you first start the game, you're going to make your own Biomutant, and you start by choosing a breed. Now, each one of these comes with slightly different stats and looks, so be sure to read the descriptions and check out what kind of starting stats they have. And once you choose a breed, you get to make some mutations to your character. And this is where you can really dive into the starting statistics and give your character some identity. So let's say you want to make like a caster, like a warlock or a wizard style character. Then you can drop the cursor into intelligence, pick up some charisma, and get some massive increases to your psychic abilities. If you want to be a total meathead, then dive all into strength and watch your arms and melee damage get absolutely jacked. And then once you're all mutated out, you get to pick a class, and this helps define your starting skills and your perks. So let's say you're all in on that wizard idea. You really like the warlock kind of wizard caster style of play, then you're going to want to pick a Psy-Freak. If you want to be a mutated berserker, then choosing something like a sentinel probably makes a lot of sense. So there is a lot of customization and variety here, and each person's Biomutant should be relatively different. Will there be a meta? Probably. Will there be certain starting classes that make the game easier than others? Most likely. But this is a single player game with zero competition, so really it's all up to you and how you want to play the game with zero pressure, which is great. So one thing that the devs did point out as you're going through creating your character is that psi powers are essentially your skills and your specials, and your biomutations are your melee abilities. So if you're creating your character or you're going through loot or anything like that and you see these things called out, be sure to pick the right one to build your character properly. Now, one of the big questions the devs get asked all of the time is, can you max out all of your stats and be the ultimate Biomutant? And the answer is no, you can't. You can unlock everything in terms of your perks and skills, but you have to choose which ones you want active and build around and which ones you want to deactivate. Now, I like this approach as well, right? It requires some thought from the players, and you can't just be kind of the jack of all trades. You need to have a certain idea or skill set to build around in order to be effective. Now, the other big question was if we would be able to respec, and that's a yes, which is fantastic. We can change our character at any time, plus our character will evolve and mutate as they explore the world. So as you interact with things, you're going to actually see your character change and react to those different things you're interacting with. So just because you created a Rex commando that's hell-bent on gunning everything down doesn't mean at the end of the game you're going to be that same mutant with the same resistances and the same kind of perks and weaknesses and strengths. You're going to change and morph as decisions are made and fights are had. Now, speaking of fights, you're going to be using skills along with your basic attacks to help you out in combat. You're going to get your first one when you start the game, and after that you'll need to search out skill masters that are hidden throughout the biomes, and these skill masters are going to teach you their special attacks after completing some quests or puzzles for them. The developers mentioned explore the world because there's going to be certain people that are tucked away in caves, behind waterfalls, in caverns, the new world, the old world. They're going to be everywhere, and if you find them and you complete their kind of series of quests, then they're going to reward you with different abilities that are going to make your life a lot easier, or they could just be like completely wacky and off the wall to build around. And one of the things you're going to be using a lot during those fights is Super Wung Fu. And this is the kind of the slowed down bullet time that we've seen in trailers, where the mutant is flying in slow-mo, gunning down, slicing up enemies. And this functions similarly like a super. So you're going to have a short duration where you're going to have a big DPS boost where you can do melee damage or range damage to enemies. And to kind of build off of the whole combat thing, your character can also get upgrades to their body. And this reminds me a lot of Cyberpunk, right? Where you get a new arm or a new eyeball and helps give you an edge. This is sort of the same thing in Biomutant. You can replace your arm with a mechanical one or add mechanical legs to run faster and jump higher. So your character, once again, will be changing depending on what you equip on them or what story decisions are made. And to give an example of this, one of the first upgrades you're going to get is a mechanical fist that lets you punch through locked doors. Now, this really isn't an arm replacement as much as it's just a tool you can use, but it's basically this rocket fist that reminds me of Pacific Rim, right? That fist punch, those jet engine on it for some extra oomph, but you're doing the exact same thing. You have this big fist and you're going to absolutely crush through things with it. Okay, so that wraps up a little bit of your character. Let's jump into crafting really quick. So this system is absolutely insane. You're literally assembling pieces of gear in order to craft them. I'm talking about picking out the handle, the blade, the hilt, the handguard, strapping them all together to make some crazy creations. And the same goes for your guns. You're picking out the barrel, the magazine, the handle, the grip. And all of these things are parts and pieces you find out in the world. The devs mentioned that there are over 1 million different combinations that you can put together, and all of these parts have different stats and perks as well. And each part comes with a different rarity attached to it. And so far we kind of have an inkling of what the rarity hierarchy is. 0 to 10 is common or gray, and as each number in between every 10 levels goes up, it gets a plus. So for instance, a rarity of 7 would be common plus plus plus. So 10 to 20 is uncommon, 20 to 30 is rare, 30 to 40 is epic, 40 to 50 is spectacular, 50 to 60 is legendary, 60 to 70 is grand, 70 to 80 is astonishing, 80 to 90, I'm not sure what this is, might be like mythic or something like that, and then 100 is ultimate. So I would definitely take these with a hefty grain of salt as well. I mean, these were all documented over the past few years from gameplay that we've seen. I'm sure a lot has changed a bit, but this does give you an idea of what to expect when it comes to rarities on gear and understanding if something is better or worse. And just to be honest, this is a lot in terms of rarities. I mean, we have common, uncommon, rare, epic, spectacular, legendary, grand, astonishing, mythic, ancient, whatever, and then ultimate. That is a lot of different rarities to chew through. Usually legendary is the top end, but now we're looking at ultimate, grand, astonishing. So this is a little much, but honestly, it gives us something to work through, something to grind through and look for. So another key stat on gear is durability, and each weapon will have its own durability depending on the materials that it's made out of. So the stronger the material, the longer it lasts without repair. And I'm really hoping this isn't like a Zelda system and our weapons don't just break and are gone forever. Fingers crossed they're just unusable until we repair instead. I would hate to find all of these super rare parts and you put together this really awesome piece of gear and then it breaks and it gets deleted and it's just gone. So I want to be able to repair things. Hopefully we can, fingers crossed, but there is durability in the game. Okay, so let's go ahead and take care of some of the miscellaneous housekeeping items before we wrap up for today. So one, there is a photo mode. Biomutant will have a dedicated mode that pauses the game, lets you take some awesome action shots. The release date for Biomutant is May 25th for Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. And just to point out, there aren't any special Series X or PS5 editions. You get the regular Xbox One X and PlayStation 4 editions out there. There are no microtransactions in the game. They will never add any microtransactions. They don't want to do that. In terms of future DLC, if the game does well, they would love to make future DLC, but they're just focusing on the main game for now. Right now, the only DLC that you will be able to purchase is the Mercenary class. You can either get that by pre-ordering the game today, or if you want to pick it up at a later point in time, you can purchase that separately. The Mercenary class gives you special perks and allows you to dual wield and be a, quote, samurai right from the beginning of the game rather than working up to it. Okay guys, so that is it. That wraps up the 25 things you need to know for launch, and I hope this video helped give you guys a great starting point for the game. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thank you so much for the support. This has been Vulkan, and I'll talk to you guys next time.